All right, guys, this is Thomas Bird with Tabletop Life here to bring you another video about the Leagues of Votann. If you haven't been watching our content, go check out those battle reports. We got a lot of games. I'm super pumped about Leagues of Votann. I normally play Ultramarines, and I've been playing Ultramarines for many years. This is the first army in a long time that's really caught my eye and wanted me to dive in. So I thought I'd share some of my learnings and give you guys a primer on the Leagues of Votann. And let's talk about what's the skinny on the Judgment tokens. You know, a lot of the internet, a lot of the initial reactions are Judgment tokens are overpowered, the army's super strong. And while they do add a lot of benefits, I'm here to kind of walk you through how you get those Judgment tokens and how it's not quite as easy to get them as you might expect, and kind of give you some ideas on how to go up against the Leagues of Votann and potentially defeat some of their heavy judgment of the ancestors. So let's dive in. So first of all, if you don't know what Judgment tokens are, let's kind of go through it real quickly. Enemy units can accrue Judgment tokens up to a max of 3 throughout the game. Once you get a Judgment token assigned to your unit, it does not go away. So they have it, it's on them throughout the course of the game. But it does give a bonus to any Votann model from the League's army that makes an attack against that unit. If they have a token, depending on how many tokens they have, they get bonuses to hit. And then look at this table, this is what they're going to get. If they have 1 token on them, unmodified hit roll of a 6 counts as an automatic wound. On 2 tokens, if you hit on a 5, on 3 tokens, if you hit on a 4. So that means that once you're fully loaded up with 3 tokens, any hit rolls of 4 count as a successful wound. Now, the one caveat to this is when you make that hit, you have to actually have a successful hit. So people ask the question, do you wound on 4s for Overwatch? No, you still have to roll 6s to hit for Overwatch, so that would not auto wound. Also, there's some slight edge cases where maybe if you have a tank that's degraded and it's minus the hit, shooting through a forest, what have you, it may need a bigger modifier to hit than a 4. Most of the tanks are BS3, you can make it +1 to hit, so it's unlikely if they have 3 tokens that they're not just auto winning on 4s, but there are some cases where a 4 may not auto win you even with 3 full tokens. But that's it. The other thing that's not listed here is when you do make an automatic hit roll based off Judgment tokens that turns into wounds, those wounds do count as 6s to wound. So an unmodified 6 sometimes triggers some special bonus abilities, like on the Magna Rail Cannon, it will do spillover damage. There's some special abilities of characters that trigger on unmodified wound rolls of 6. So you gotta look very carefully on that. So anything that auto wounds from a hit counts as a 6 to wound for purposes of those rules. So very powerful. But okay, so tokens are great. We already knew that. Broken maybe, but how do you get them? So this is where it gets pretty interesting. So there's 3 main ways to kind of give out tokens. So you have characters, they'll have abilities, they'll have Warlord Traits, they'll have relics, you'll have stratagems. So you'll have a couple of stratagems that you can apply, spend CP on that can hand out traits, and then you'll have Leagues of Votann special ability, Eye of the Ancestors. So they just have a native ability that basically passively hands out tokens if you do certain things throughout the game. So let's talk about character abilities. So first one's based around the call and the high call. So the call is equivalent to a captain in a Space Marine army. He's got base ability of reroll 1s to hit, but he can take in his data sheet, he has an ability called Grim Efficiency. So during the command phase, if he can select 1 enemy unit that is visible to him, and then that unit gains 1 Judgment token. So straight up, beginning of command phase, if he sees somebody, he can point at them and say, "You've been judged," and give him 1 Judgment token. Now, if you take a high call, he's got an extra ability. A high call is basically an upgraded call, and he's a chapter master. he has a special ability that is called Efficient Exemplar. So if he himself destroys an enemy unit, if that unit had a judgment token on it, he can now select an enemy unit visible to him and give it that token. So basically, if he kills a unit with a token, he can pass it off to an enemy unit nearby. But both of these abilities require that call to be able to see them. So certainly in the early game, if you're hiding behind obscuring and you don't give that call somebody to see, he's not going to be able to hand out any judgment tokens. Pretty big deal. There's some Warlord traits. So if you have an upgraded call, so a high call, you can buy him a Warlord trait called the Experienced Eye. So basically, when he does that Grim Efficiency Warlord or ability, he can, in the command phase, he can basically do it twice. So he has to do it to a separate unit. So he can't give it to the same unit twice, but he can hand it out twice. Pretty nice, but again, requires him to see. There's a second Warlord trait called a Long List. This can go on any character, and it kind of gives three main abilities. Their ranged attacks from that character ignore light cover. They ignore Lookout Sir as long as they're targeting a unit with a judgment token. And then the part that we're talking about, at the end of each phase, if a unit with judgment tokens was destroyed, select one enemy unit that is visible to receive one judgment token. So this is slightly different than the Warlord trait, that are the Warlord ability that the High Call has that requires him to kill it. This one is any unit that kills a unit with a judgment token. This character now can select somebody visible. So again, it kind of requires these characters to kind of be front, line, and center. And you have ways to pass it out. If you already have a token, I can kill you and now pass it to somebody else that I can see. So the characters don't really want to hide behind walls. If you start thinking about it, snipers or units that could target characters, targeted smites, Satan powers, they do not want to be standing out in the open. And if they want to hide behind a wall to kind of take line of sight cover from these different abilities that target characters, guess what? They're not handing out judgment tokens. So kind of keep that in mind. They got to be out there visible, and they only move 5 inches. They don't really move super fast. So, you know, unless you're like running in them to attack, where they're just like you're right next to them, they could easily see you at the beginning of their turn. If they have to run up or move, their ability to kind of get places to be able to see at the beginning of their next turn, you as the opponent can really control that and limit how much they can assign tokens. There's one relic. I don't think there's many people taking this relic or looking at this relic seriously with all the other great relics that you have. But if you take a Einhard champion, so basically he's a buffed up fighting character for Terminators. He's basically lieutenant for Terminator units. So we call them Terminators, the Hearthguard units. He's got a relic shield that he can take. Once per battle round, if he gets hit, he can make that damage count as 0. And then if he does do that on a 5+, he can make that unit that attacked him get a judgment token. So pretty edge case. He's got to be attacking and getting attacked back, and he's still got to roll a 5+. So obscure way to give out a judgment token, seemingly much harder than some of the other ways. But that is the one relic that could potentially give out a judgment token. And then we have stratagems. There's not that many stratagems. There's only 3 stratagems that can give out judgment tokens. They're all 1 CP. The first one is Personal Grudge. So in your command phase, you get to pick 1 Votann character and then 1 enemy unit on the battlefield. So basically, you know, this is your turn to go out and get that guy. But until the end of the battle, every time that character makes an attack against that unit, that enemy unit is considered to have 3 judgment tokens. And so this is only for that character. It doesn't help any of his friends. So if that character has no judgment tokens by himself, he can just instantly have 3 for that one character. And this is one use only. So once you pop it, you can't keep popping it for different characters. So if you know you're going to go in and fight with your character, or you're going to shoot, if you have some sort of weapon, you can pop it and have 3 judgment tokens. But it takes a little bit of planning. You got to do it in your command phase. Second stratagem, Newfound Nemesis. This is a little tricky, also very edge case. If you get a Grimnar model destroyed, you can give out 2 Judgment tokens, or if it's an actual Grimnar, the enemy gains 3 Judgment tokens. So if you don't know what a Grimnar is, that's their Librarian equivalent, their Psyker. It's a 3 model unit, so it's a Grimnar and 2 core models, basically little robot helpers. So if you kill one of the robot helpers, he can spend 1 CP, and then you get 2 Judgment tokens. If you actually end up killing the Psyker himself, they get really mad at you, and they give out 3. So there you go. The last stratagem is called Light 'em Up. You use this in the shooting phase after a Searchlight unit has resolved its attacks. So the only unit that can have the Searchlight keyword is the unit of bikes. So all the units have these different items and war gear that you can buy for them. And depending on which war gear you equip, you get extra keywords. So in this scenario, you have items that give you ignore cover, you have items that give you the Searchlight keyword, you may have something that gives you abilities to overwatch, but this is the one that you want if you want to basically hand out a Judgment token. So you get to shoot, you have to hit something, you can shoot multiple things, you hit them all, then you pop this strat after you've done all your attacks, and you just pick one of them that you shot at and hit, and then that unit gets it gets a Judgment token. So this is probably the most consistent, easy way to get it, because the bikes move pretty fast. They're 12-inch move with fly. Turn 1 on the game, they have a pre-game move of 12 inches, so they could just like move up and get a Searchlight token on you by spending 1 CP. But it's only 1 strat, it's only 1 unit, it's just 1 token. And then the last item that gives Judgment tokens is a passive rule that all the Votann units have called Eye of the Ancestors. So there's 3 main things that you as the opponent, if you do, you basically will give yourself a Judgment token. So if you kill a unit with Votann, they get mad at you, they'll give you a token. So anytime you kill something, that unit that killed them picks up a Judgment token. And again, these tokens stick with that unit forever, so there's no like getting rid of those tokens. And any unit that targets you, they all count as having that token against you. If you successfully complete an action or psychic action, you gain a token. So it's not when you start it. Some actions sometimes require you to go all the way through the next phase. That's important, because when you complete it, matters as far as timing for your opponent. So if you do an action that takes your whole turn, they're not going to start their turn with you having not completed a psychic action yet, or the regular action, and get an extra token and get extra buffs against you. They have to wait till that action is complete. But if you were to run up and plant a banner, that unit now, at the end of your turn, gets a Judgment token. And the last one is at the end of your turn, every time it's the end of your turn, if you have any units on objectives, the Votann player can select one of those units and give them a token. So you're always going to try to get objectives to score points. So you know, at least in the game terms, you're always going to be picking up some Judgment tokens during your turn. But it's only 1. Even if you have multiple units on objectives, you can only hand out 1. He's got to pick. And again, if in 9th, if you have a wall or something that's obscuring you in your backfield, if I give a token on you on a unit that's all the way in the back and I can't see you, I can't shoot at you or I punch you, then it's kind of irrelevant in terms of damage that I can do to you. So it's always good to have more tokens, but there are some limitations on why that matters. Some of the secondaries for Judgment tokens or for Votann require you to have Judgment tokens. So the Ancestors Are Watching is an important one, where you get points for killing units with Judgment tokens per phase. So you get 2 points if you kill something that has 1 or more. You get 3 points if you kill something that has 3. Most of the games we've been playing, it's very rare that you'll get a full 3 Judgment tokens. Sometimes some army have bonuses to count as having extra tokens. It just depends on which league they're playing. But from a points perspective, you have to physically have 3 tokens on you to get the full points, and it's per phase. So if I kill 10 units in 1 turn, I only score 2 points. So Votann shooting can be very efficient, and you could kill multiple units quickly, and you may shoot yourself out of killing units in multiple phases. And then the big thing about this one is that secondary also says at the end of the game, if there are any units left with tokens on them, then you lose points. So you kind of get caught where you want to hand out tokens as much as you can to get better killing, but you better get them all, because you're going to lose points at the end of the game for tokens that you don't score. So tokens aren't always the worst things if you're able to move or hide or get away from the Votann guys. But that's it. I wanted to take that opportunity to explain a little bit about how Judgment tokens work. Looking at the characters, that's a key part of how they hand out Judgment tokens. If you can affect that character, where he goes, how he attacks, a basic call is toughness 4 with 5 wounds, 3 up save, 4 performable save. Like, he's not that hard to kill. They don't really have good ways to defend against mortal wounds. So you have psychic powers, where you have shooting attacks that can do mortals. They don't have ways to get saves against that without very specific builds, and they can't heal themselves. So even when they do get wounded, they're not really going back to that character and healing them like a Space Marine would potentially. So that's it. If you have any questions, leave us some comments. If you like this kind of content, let us know, and we'll do more of these types of videos. Again, this is Thomas Bird with Tabletop Life. Hit that like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.